Imagine this. You finally sit down on your flight, ready to relax. The hum of the engines fills the cabin, the seatbelt clicks, and soon a smiling flight attendant is handing you a little tray. It looks harmless: chicken with rice, a bread roll, maybe a small dessert and a cup of coffee. Everything feels perfectly normal. But what if I told you that the most dangerous part of your flight might actually be right there on that tray? That's right. Not the turbulence, not the grumpy neighbor in the next seat, not even the long lines at security. It's the food. The truth about what we eat in the sky is something most passengers never think about, and airlines prefer to keep it that way. Airplane food is not prepared on the plane. It's cooked in giant industrial kitchens on the ground, often a full day or even two before your flight takes off. Those kitchens prepare thousands of meals at once. Then they chill them, seal them in trays, load them into trucks, and drive them to the airport. From there, the food sits in refrigerated storage, waiting for your aircraft. Finally, it's reloaded, stored again, and reheated mid-air. In other words, your trash dinner has already had quite the journey before you even board. And that's exactly where the danger starts. All it takes is one broken refrigerator, one small delay in loading, or one lazy worker skipping the temperature check, and bacteria begin to grow. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but it's there. A perfect breeding ground, wrapped neatly in aluminum foil. This isn't just theory. In 1984, Japan Airlines served chicken curry on a Tokyo Anchorage flight. More than 300 passengers got food poisoning. The reason? The meal had been stored too long in a warm hangar. Similar cases have happened since, though you rarely hear about them because airlines quietly settle them to avoid bad press. Even if everything's handled perfectly, there's another twist. At 35,000 feet, the dry cabin air and low pressure change how our senses work. You lose about 30% of your ability to taste salt and sugar. That's why food seems bland in the air. So airlines compensate by adding extra salt, sugar, and seasoning. It may taste better, but it's a silent trap for anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart problems. One in-flight meal can contain your entire day's sodium limit. But perhaps the biggest secret lies not in the food, but in the drinks. Hot drinks like coffee or tea? Flight attendants know the truth. They're made with water from the plane's onboard tanks. Those tanks aren't cleaned after every flight, sometimes not even every month. Studies have found traces of E. coli and Staphylococcus bacteria in airline water samples. It's why so many flight attendants say, "We never drink coffee or tea on the plane." And if they don't, maybe you shouldn't either. So, what can you do? Always ask for bottled water or sealed drinks. It's a small choice that can make a big difference. Now let's talk about the famous question: chicken or pasta? Chicken seems safe, right? It's not. Because it dries out quickly, it's often undercooked to keep it soft. Researchers in the UK found that nearly 70% of airline chicken dishes contain traces of Campylobacter, a bacteria that causes food poisoning. That's one reason why pilots and co-pilots are forbidden to eat the same meal. If one gets sick, the other can still fly. Think about that for a moment. Another problem is where airline food actually comes from. Many airlines outsource catering to the lowest bidder, often in countries with weak hygiene rules. Inspectors have found cockroaches, rodents, even open drains near prep areas. Those same facilities served premium meals to international flights. Comforting, isn't it? The truth is simple. Airplane food isn't designed for freshness, it's designed for survival. But if you know the tricks, you can outsmart it. Avoid salads, skip creamy desserts, and never touch anything that looks too fresh. Because at 35,000 feet, nothing is truly fresh. And one more insider tip: frequent flyers, especially older travelers, almost never eat full in flight meals. They dine before the flight, sip bottled water, and rest easy while everyone else unwraps their mystery chicken. Coincidence? I don't think so. If you thought that was unsettling, buckle up, because now we're getting into the real stories, the kind that rarely make it to the news, but every flight attendant knows by heart. Let's start in 2017, a flight from Delhi to London. Not long after takeoff, passengers started complaining about a strange smell. Crew rushed to investigate and discovered that several trays of chicken curry had spoiled. They quickly removed the meals and offered bread rolls and water instead. The problem? The catering truck had broken down in the sun, and the food sat for 3 extra hours before being chilled again. 3 hours, that's all it takes. Or take 2019. A charter flight to Spain ended with dozens of vacationers hospitalized. The cause? A salad with mayonnaise dressing. It had been prepared the previous afternoon and stored in a warm room overnight. Mayonnaise and heat, never a good combination. And then there are the bizarre stories. A business class passenger found a strip of melted plastic in his lasagna. It turned out to be packaging tape that had fused into the meal. Another traveler discovered a dead insect baked into her dessert topping. Both incidents were quickly handled internally. No refunds, no headlines, just the quiet apology and a new tray. These aren't isolated cases. They're symptoms of an enormous system moving too fast to care about perfection. Airline kitchens prepare thousands of meals a day, and when things move that quickly, mistakes happen. Even when the food is technically safe, flying itself changes how your body reacts. At altitude, your stomach slows down digestion, and your body loses moisture faster than on the ground. Combine that with salty, processed meals, and your system struggles to cope. That's why airplane food often feels heavy. It's not just the recipe, it's biology. Now, you might have noticed how airlines brag about healthy or chef curated menus. Sounds lovely, right? In reality, those meals are cooked hours in advance, frozen or chilled, and then reheated. A catering chef once admitted in an interview, "We cook for 10,000 passengers a day. There's no time for fresh." In other words, it's not food, it's logistics.
Hi there, this is Airport Aviation Guide, and I'm so glad you're watching this video. I travel a lot and always try to bring you the most up-to-date and useful information. In return, I ask you to fasten your seatbelts, subscribe, and give a like. And now, Quigley, let's take off.
And here's the water problem again. In 2019, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency tested drinking water from dozens of aircraft. Over half failed safety standards. That same water is used not only for hot drinks, but also for rinsing utensils and sometimes for washing hands. Think about that next time you reach for your in flight coffee. Even the ice cubes on some flights come from questionable sources. Unless they're sealed, you can't be sure they're made from filtered water. That's why experienced travelers and every single flight attendant I've met stick to bottled drinks only. So, what should you eat if you absolutely must? Here's your survival list. Pack your own snacks, nuts, granola bars, or crackers. Bring a banana or an apple and eat it early. Order vegetarian, kosher, or gluten free meals ahead of time. They're prepared separately and usually handled with more care. And above all, skip fish. Tuna, salmon, shrimp all taste great on land but are dangerous at altitude. 1 degree off in storage temperature and bacteria thrive. Now, to balance the horror, let's share some humor. A passenger once complained to Lufthansa that his vegetarian salad contained meat. The airline's official reply? Yes, but only a little. German efficiency at its finest. Bottom line, airplane catering isn't evil, it's just enormous. When you mass produce thousands of meals under pressure, you can't expect gourmet quality. Most are safe, but that tiny percentage of failure, that's what seasoned travelers learn to avoid. So now that you know the dark side of airplane food, let's turn to the positive side. How to travel smarter, stay healthy, and still enjoy your flight. Because being prepared doesn't mean being paranoid, It means flying like a pro. There's a story that few people know, but once you hear it, you'll never look at airplane food the same way again. Back in the 1980s, a commercial flight from London to Tokyo nearly turned into a disaster. Not because of engine failure, not because of bad weather, but because of dinner. One of the pilots fell violently ill midair after eating a contaminated meal. He collapsed in the cockpit. The co-pilot had to take full control of the aircraft while medics prepared for an emergency landing. Later investigation found the cause: spoiled fish, served to the entire crew. Since then, airlines have followed a rule that still stands today. The pilot and co-pilot can never eat the same dish. Think about that. If airlines trust their own food so little that they forbid both pilots from sharing a meal, why should we treat that tray with blind faith? But here's the good news: flying doesn't have to feel risky. Once you understand how airplane meals are made and what your body goes through at altitude, you can outsmart the system and travel like a pro, calm, safe, and a step ahead of everyone else on board. Let's start with what most people don't realize. Your body changes dramatically in the air. Cabin pressure drops to the equivalent of standing on a 7,000-foot mountain. The air is drier than the Saharan desert. Your taste buds numb, your stomach slows down, and you lose water twice as fast as you do on the ground. That's why even a harmless meal can suddenly feel heavy or make you bloated. The trick isn't to starve, it's to eat smart. Here's the blueprint seasoned travelers live by. 1. Eat before you fly, and eat light. The best meal is the one you have on the ground. Choose something simple: rice, soup, oatmeal, eggs, or grilled vegetables. Avoid anything greasy, spicy, or dairy heavy. Remember, your digestion slows down at altitude. You don't want to bring a 3-course lunch into a pressurized cabin. 2. Bring your own safety net. Pack small, sealed snacks that you control: almonds, protein bars, dried fruit, whole grain crackers, all perfect. And one more underrated hero: a banana. It's soft, easy to digest, and rich in potassium, which helps your body handle dehydration. The secret is not to depend on the airline to feed you. Think of your carry-on as your personal kitchen. 3. Order the special meals strategically. Vegetarian, vegan, kosher, halal, or gluten-free, these are prepared separately, in smaller batches and under stricter supervision. They're also served first, meaning they haven't been sitting around as long. Frequent flyers call it the hidden upgrade. You don't pay extra, but you often get fresher, tastier food. 4. Stay ahead of dehydration. When you breathe that filtered dry air for hours, your body loses moisture fast. The best travelers always carry a refillable bottle. After security, fill it at a water station. It's free in almost every airport. Then sip small amounts throughout the flight. Skip alcohol and coffee. Both make dehydration worse. Instead, ask for plain bottled water or juice. You'll arrive clearer, more rested, and far less jet lagged. 5. Watch your caffeine and sugar. Here's something many people don't realize: your blood oxygen level drops slightly while flying. Combine that with a sugar spike from cookies, sodas, or desserts, and you're setting yourself up for fatigue and dizziness later. If you really need a pick-me-up, go for green tea from a sealed bottle, not plain coffee. Now, let's talk about the dirtiest secret of all: the surfaces around you. The most contaminated place on a plane isn't the toilet, it's the tray table. Tests have found traces of E. coli, mold, and even baby changing residue on them. Always bring sanitizing wipes. Clean your tray, your armrests, and the buckle before eating. It's not being paranoid, it's being practical. Another easy win is never store your food or phone in the seat pocket. That pocket is a dumpster of germs, old tissues, crumbs, used masks. Wipe your hands often, especially before you eat. 6. Dress for comfort and health. It may sound unrelated, but it matters. Cold air flows along the windows in the cabin floor. Window seats can be 10 degrees cooler than aisle seats. Wear loose, breathable clothes and bring a sweater. Warm muscles mean better circulation, which means less swelling and fatigue. Compression socks also help prevent ankle swelling, especially on long flights. 7. Know when to say no. If the food smells off, looks too creamy, or the coffee water tastes metallic, politely decline it. You can always ask for bottled drinks or packaged snacks instead. Remember, it's your body. You don't owe the airline your stomach's peace of mind. 8. Pay attention to the crew. If you see flight attendants avoiding certain dishes or skipping coffee, follow their lead. They know exactly which items are risky. In fact, many bring their own food, small containers of rice or soup they trust. And finally, here's a golden trick for long flights. Eat less, move more. Every couple of hours, get up, stretch, and walk the aisle. It keeps your digestion moving and prevents stiffness. Your body will thank you when you land. To wrap this up, let me share 2 short stories that capture what this all means. A retired pilot once told me, after 40 years of flying, I realized the safest meal on board was the bread roll. It's so hard, even bacteria avoid it. And an older traveler I met in Singapore, she must have been in her 70s, carried her own sandwiches on every trip. When I asked her why, she smiled and said, "Because I like knowing who cooked them." That's really the secret, isn't it? Flying smarter isn't about fear, it's about awareness. It's about controlling the small things that make a big difference. So next time you're on a plane and hear that familiar question, chicken or pasta, just smile. You will already know the real answer. Because now you're not just another passenger. You're the one who understands what's really going on at 35,000 feet. And trust me, your stomach will thank you when you land. Safe travels, my friend. Stay hydrated, stay calm, and may your only turbulence be the movie you're watching.